Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Blue Star Family's Money Mondays webinars. This is a program dedicated to conversations about finances in the military. I am super excited that you have chosen to join us today. I am your usual host, Lydia Whitty, the JP Morgan Chase Financial Wellness Deploy Fellow with Blue Star Family's Campaign for Inclusion initiative. This initiative is aimed at increasing diversity in leadership within the MSO and the VSO space. About myself, I am an Army veteran spouse and an ardent advocate for foreign born military spouses and their families. Today, we are going to discuss some very important and timely topics: fraud, identity theft, and child online safety. We live in an increasingly virtual world, and that is why we have to focus on these topics. With all the conveniences that the virtual world offers, it's also accompanied by quite a bit of risk for ourselves and our children. So, we want to learn why military families and veterans are at a higher risk of cybercrime, the signs of identity theft, how to defend against these, and where to get help, and also how to help our children while they are online. Even better, today, I want to tell you, for our Blue Star family members, you can save 50% on your prescription to Aura. We're going to tell you a little bit about Aura. Just hold on. Go to our website, bluestarfamilies.org, struck perks, and you will get yourself and your family protected. I will drop the link in the chat so you can get to subscribe to Aura. As usual, I am joined by amazing panelists. Today, they're subject matter experts. They're doing profound work to educate us on the risk and how to protect ourselves. And also, they have some amazing products that will help us in ensuring that we are adequately protected. Without further ado, please meet our Executive Director for New England Chapter for Blue Star Families. His name is Jeffrey Chen. Welcome, Jeff. Jeff is an active public affairs officer of the U.S. Navy Reserve with the current rank of Lieutenant Commander. He has served tours at U.S. Central and Navy Central Command Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, Navy Public Affairs Support Element, the Pentagon, U.S. Fleet Forces and Navy Public Affairs Support Element. He recently completed a 9-month deployment tour to Resolute Support Headquarters, Afghanistan. Jeff's personal and unit decorations include the Joint Service Commendation Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Overseas Service Medal, Armed Forces Reserve Medal, National Defense Medal, U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, and NATO Medal. Oh my God, Jeff, that's a lot. Thank you so much for your service to our country. We can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Jeff. Secondly, we have J.R. Titson. Please, if I don't pronounce that, please help me. J.R., am I pronouncing that properly?
T-Sort.
Oh, T-Sort.
Thank you.
T-Sort. JR, thank you. I will stick to JR.
Yes.
JR is a Chief Information Security Officer, CISO for Aura, and was previously the CISO for Ductrace and Micron Technology. He is an expert in cybersecurity, intellectual property protection, and enterprise risk management. Over his 25-year career, he has focused on the protection of trade secrets, insider threats, and constantly evolving espionage and malware threats. JR holds a bachelor's degree in management and business information systems and a master's degree in business administration. Thank you so much for joining us, JR. We are very, very happy to have you with us today.
Thank
Now,
you, Lydia.
before we ask you any questions, I'd like to share with our audiences some statistics so we can put everything we want to share today into perspective. Well, you can see from our screen that according to the FTC, military families and veterans are 3 times more likely to report debit card misuse or electronic theft of money. They are also 22% more likely to report fraudulent accounts opened using their stolen information. 1 in 5 have experienced 2 or more types of identity theft. This is worrying for me. What are some of the if of these? The total financial losses by military families more than doubled from 122 million in 2020 to 267 million dollars in 2021. In 2021 as well, military consumers reported 20% more incidents of identity theft, fraud, and other digital theft compared to 2021. These are alarming. Now, if you are asking yourself, okay, how do I know? The top categories of these kinds of fraud are securities account fraud and identity theft, which had a 114% increase. Business to personal loan fraud had 80% increase. New fraudulent bank accounts 29% increase. Imposter scams, online shopping and negative reviews, and government documents or benefits fraud. So as you can see, we have so much going on and we need to, learn how to protect yourself. So I will begin with you, JR. Please help us understand what fraud and identity theft is as an expert, and why does the military community, why is it so susceptible to cyber attacks?
Thanks, Lydia, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to your audience today. I think if we start with a really foundational definition of identity theft, we would point at personal information like social security numbers, home and address, name. These indicators of one's identity tend to be fairly easy to find if you know where to look. And that is because a series of data breaches over time from companies or government agencies has disclosed that information for many of us, myself included. I'm sure you and Jeff have also had a data breach event. So the data is available for those who are looking to do harm. The reason why we think military families specifically are more susceptible to this is a couple of things. They have access to greater government services, and that can make them more of a target and more interesting to others looking to commit fraud. They're often also checking in on their accounts, maybe more infrequently if they're deployed or they're otherwise unavailable. And this can mean that they are late to see an indicator of something happening with their identity or with access to their accounts. And that time delay can often mean the difference between an inconvenience or something going really wrong. So this is why we think that the military are more susceptible, and certainly the data that you showed also suggests that the military families are being hurt more deeply by identity theft now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, JR. So I'd ask this of both of you. How does one know that they may be at risk or that they actually could be a victim? Jeff, maybe you go and then JR will go.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Lydia. So in terms of my background, as you mentioned, I'm not only the executive director for Blue Star Families of New England, but I'm also a U.S. Navy Reserve officer. And in my Navy career, I was unfortunately part of the large OPM, Office of Personnel Management, government breach back in 2015, where my personal information through my security background checks and just other identifying information was part of a massive data breach. And it resulted in much of my personal information being out there for criminals and other folks to seize and utilize. I think that oftentimes when we're talking about our military community, for those of us that have credit monitoring systems, we were alerted to those kinds of breaches and incidents. But for many folks, I think in our military community in particular, if you happen to be deployed or if you're overseas or you're serving on a ship somewhere, you might not have ready access to those notifications and that ability to learn about your information being compromised. And I think that that's what exacerbates a lot of our issues, and that we are not only victims of these types of incidents, but we are not necessarily notified in time to act on them or to mitigate some of the harm that's been done, because we often don't find out until much later after the incident. I think that that's what contributes to some of the challenges that our military community faces in particular.
Thank you so much, Jeff. As you spoke, I just read the next question for you, which was going to be share your personal story with us and how this affected you, and then we come back to JR, or whichever way, JR, you can choose to go with. How do we know that we are victims, or how then what happens after that? Please share with us. I think let's go with JR first. How do you know? How does one know that they are at risk, or that they could be already a victim?
There's, I think, a number of indicators. There are some really easy ones, like you will be told that you've had your identity stolen. As a private sector citizen, I was also in the OPM breach, and I was notified that, yes, your data has been stolen. So that's obviously an easy way to tell, often way too late to reduce your risk. So you want to look for maybe other more subtle or indirect indicators. For example, a large burst of calls coming to your number that didn't happen before. Maybe credit card offers showing up to your home address in someone else's name, or a large increase in credit card offers. Looking at your credit card statement, are there charges on there that you didn't make? Are you reviewing your credit card statement? I know some of us maybe don't get to it religiously every month. Going to file your taxes and finding that you've already had a return filed that you didn't do is another indicator. These are, certainly after something has been done, but often early enough that you can respond and limit the damage. Let banks know that there's been fraud. Let your credit bureaus know that there's fraud activity happening with your information. And that will help stem the damage. I think the other thing to be really careful about is your online accounts themselves. If you have a login to a bank that normally sends you an SMS text message for authentication, if you get one of those and you're not trying to log in, that is absolutely a red flag, and you should surface that to your bank immediately. Often we find that people get annoyed by those messages, or sometimes they click yes, or they otherwise respond to the prompt, and that is somebody actively trying to break into your account in real time. So we want to be really careful of those real-time indicators as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, JR. That has been very, very helpful. So now we know what to look out for. I'll go to you, Jeff. What is your story with fraud? What happened? How did you know? And then what did you do after that? That would be something very useful for our audience too.
Yeah, so as JR mentioned, the two of us were part of the massive OPM office personnel management breach back in 2015, and I was notified that I was part of the breach and that my personal information was compromised. One of the things that immediately had to happen was not only the provision of credit monitoring services to those who were part of the breach. We, had to religiously go through our documents and our various online platforms to see if there were any other areas that were compromised. I think that one of the things that we wanted to do was learn how to mitigate some of those measures. I think that the use of freezing credit was certainly something that was utilized and talked about, so that if someone fraudulently was trying to open an account in your name, your credit report would not be necessarily accessible, and it was sort of a way to freeze that process, if you will, and to stop that process. I think that as a military officer was concerned because for many of our positions, we are required to have a certain type of background check in accordance to our various military rank and positions, and we could not get certain security clearances without those background checks being cleared. So for any military service member that might have these issues, and it seemed as though there might be sort of negative marks, for instance, on our credit, it actually resulted in us not being able to, in some cases, advance in our ranks, in other cases, not being able to really look at being assigned certain positions or to certain job units. And that ultimately can affect military members' ability to being promoted and to really looking at advancing their careers and doing certain types of jobs. So it really has a cascading effect. It's not just a personal inconvenience and a personal issue to deal with. It often went into the realm of affecting our personal and professional ability to do certain kinds of things within the military in particular.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. I want to say sorry for what you went through, and that just goes to show you how serious this issue is, and you really have to, take the necessary steps to protect yourself. If you're joining us now, we are talking about fraud, identity theft, and child online safety. Share a comment with us on the chat. If you have a question, we'll be happy to answer it as well. Share it on the chat. For Blue Star families, today is a special day. You can save 50% on your prescription to Aura. We are just about to talk about Aura, okay? Just hold your horses. If you go to Blue Star Families website, bluestarfam.org/perks, please take advantage and protect your family. This is 50% off. I'm going to share the link again in the comments so that you can just click to take you straight to that place. This brings us to what I'd say is the most important reason why we are here now. We have already known what the problem is and the telltale signs, right? Now, how do we protect ourselves? JR, I will now go to you. As someone who's actively involved in addressing this issue, what are some of the first steps you should take to protect yourself? I'm talking about prevention or precaution. And what are the resources available to this community?
Well, Lydia, certainly Aura has resources, like you mentioned, not only a service focused in this area, but guides as well and additional information around being more thoughtful and preventative with your online safety. But there's more clearly out there than just Aura. I would encourage everyone to work and talk to credit bureaus and look at active duty credit alerts to ensure you're getting a bit more real-time information, more signals to your lenders. If you're trying to take out credit while on active duty, then it signals them to maybe take some extra steps to validate your identity to ensure that you are who you say you are before granting a new credit account or a loan. But in general, I would say be suspicious, be skeptical. When you see information come along, when you're prompted to do something on email or phone, if there's a sense of urgency to rush and respond, these are things to take a step back and be skeptical about. Why is this happening? Why am I being asked this? Does it make sense for my situation? I think if you, the other thing that I would do, and I try to live this in my personal life, and I try to encourage it for others as well, is be cautious about how much of your personal data that you're disclosing to businesses or companies or otherwise in commerce in your day-to-day lives. Do you need to sign up for that mailing list that asks for your home physical address and your social security number? Do you need to provide your first, middle, and last name on that application? Do all of these services absolutely require the information that they're asking you for? In many cases, it's not required, it's convenience. And you can still acquire the service without providing so much information. So ask questions when you're filling out forms. Think, do I really need this in order to get the service? And do I need this service enough to warrant giving them another copy of my personal information? So I think, part of how we limit our risk here and get preventative is being cautious about how much data that we're surrendering to folks. The other thing we should talk about is passwords. We have passwords all over the place in our daily lives, sometimes hundreds of them. If you are going to a different website and signing up for a password and using the same password over and over and over, this puts you at real risk, because the next time that password is breached and made available, all of your other accounts now are at risk. So we want to get to a place where we're using one password for each website, but that quickly becomes difficult to manage because humans just aren't built to remember that level of information. So password managers as a tool come in very handy with this, where Aura provides one. There are others as well. But this allows us to remember one really good password, and then let the password manager remember all of the others for you. And this keeps you safe in terms of the next disclosure or the next data breach in which your password might be contained. So I will wrap it up there in terms of preventative stuff. There's nothing to be said for taking action quickly. We get that alert, respond quickly, take care of it, see what's going on, because that can also limit the damage of a real-time attack.
Thank you, JR. Thank you so much. Jeff, I will move to you. Same question. He probably has covered most of them, but what are the necessary steps to prevent further damage? The damage has already been done, right? What's the next step? What did you do?
Yeah, so when I was the victim of the identity theft, because of the breach, I noticed that there were certain accounts trying to be opened in my name, and the immediate steps, particularly if you're in the military, is to certainly safeguard your information, understand which accounts may have been to try to be open in your name. I think in the military community, particularly for those of us that might be in the Guard or Reserves, where you have lots of opportunities to have your information requested from your command. For instance, we know in the military this idea and concept around PII, right, personal identifying information, and it gets into unfortunate habits for reservists and Guard members in particular, where you email a lot of that information through your personal emails, right, and not using your military emails. The military emails are going to be more secure and make sure that you only communicate that information through secure means. I think that there's been countless examples where reservists in particular are mailing from their Yahoo or Gmail accounts, commercial email accounts, and because their name might be on a roster where your personal identifying information might be on there. You cannot share that through a commercial email, and I think that's where it gets really in some ways inconvenient, because you have to log into your military emails to ensure that you're communicating with your command properly and through those channels, and not just at the convenience through your Gmail app on your phone, right? So I think that there's a lot of those kinds of things you need to do to mitigate some of that. Certainly understand how you can not only as Jara mentioned, use password practices that are protecting you from utilizing either passwords that have been compromised or using ones that are commonly hacked. I think that having an idea of how you can utilize different types of services to allow you to have a variety of different passwords and different naming conventions for your passwords to make it just as difficult as possible for people that might have access to your accounts to try to hack in that way. So, I think I can't stress and emphasize enough what JR mentioned. The idea is to act quickly and to respond quickly and to be as comprehensive in the review of all of your different accounts. If you are notified that you've been victimized, I think that one of the things you want to do is just not let it just go on too long without notifying the right folks, whether it's your banking institutions or your command in the military, so that they understand that you've been a victim, and there might be some issues to address as you move forward.
Thank you so much, Jeff. As we head towards the end of our broadcast, there's still something very important for us to talk about today. We've said a lot about adults, what we do in terms of prevention and also afterwards. Now, how about children? You know how children are these days. They're probably born with a screen on their face. I don't know. How do we make sure that our kids are safe online and that they don't expose themselves, and by extension, us, to such risks that we have talked about? JR, you go first.
Yeah, always a great topic to talk about the kids, and it feels like it's taken us adults some time to get comfortable with this world, and now how do we transmit that to the kids? I have a child and have been growing through this along with everyone else, and I think the first place to start is helping them understand that data that you make available to the internet through social media, through gaming, through other means is there to stay, and it's there to come back and haunt you, and get some expectations set up front that we want to reduce, again, keep that information that's personally identifiable off the internet, if at all possible. Don't surrender it willingly, and if you do, make sure you understand how it's being protected. And I think it's really easy for kids to disclose information like that without thinking it, because they don't fully understand the risk environment. So I've tried to make it a bit more of a game, right? We set up aliases for emails and aliases for social media in gaming, so that it can be fun. It can be, your alternate identity. It can be a different character that you can pretend that you are online. And that's allowed us to use, different email addresses and different terminology, rather than having a first name, last name, or a first name, last initial being disclosed through those platforms. The other thing, of course, this is not going to be new for any of you, but coach your kids on how to deal with strangers, and that strangers exist on the internet just as they do in physical life, and pretty much all the same rules apply. Don't talk to them, don't take their word for it, don't respond to them and give them anything that they're asking for. So in all of this, transparency is key. Have those open conversations, use the internet with your child, and ensure that they have a place to come and ask questions, because they're invariably going to run across something that they won't understand, and you want them to come and ask you those questions.
Thank you so much, JR. Jeff, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, again, just to emphasize the use of really, common sense practices, right? So I think that, in particular for those of us that might have older children who are in their teen years and using social media in such a way where you might have a really well-intentioned connection with your teen on social media. In fact, right, you might be connected with them on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter in terms of those major platforms. But you as a parent, you may even have a Snapchat account or TikTok, right? And I think that having that connection to your teen is certainly valuable to understand and to understand what that's going on. But I think some of the unintended consequences is that if your teen isn't particularly good around what they share, and certainly their networks are going to be much more vast and larger than yours potentially. What they tag you in and what they mentioned in terms of their social media posts can be something that is really important to talk to your teen about, because there's been numerous occasions where unintended information is out there, whether it's just even operational security types of issues versus I've seen teens announce that my dad is deployed and he just got me this account in US SAA to help me, with school or whatever. It's something that you want to make sure you don't, have your teen, engage in practices that, they think is fairly innocuous and innocent, but it's really because they, are connected to you in that way that they have obviously, compromise some additional information unwillingly.
Thank you, Jeff. When you talk about kids, I tell you, it's definitely not easy. I have two of them who are already phone crazy and just keeping up with everything they want to be in. It's like, mommy, can I get this up? Can I get? It's like a million apps. I'm like, do you really need all these? And so you also want to be on those places so that you can keep an eye on what they're doing and who they're communicating with. And it's a new ball game from that. How can I be on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram? And I don't even want to be there. But I have to be there because it forces me to like keep an eye on what they're doing. But when you talk about teens, that's another thing. I'm not sure what will happen when they're a little older and they want a little more privacy. I think that's when what JR talks about comes in, like give them an open space to come and talk about the questions that they would like to talk about. For our viewers as well, don't forget that I've been putting some stuff for you on there, links for you to read about all this that we're talking about, specific guide for cybercrime, and particularly for veterans and the scams on there, ones for the military community as well. And most importantly, for those like me with kids, the child safety and what you can do during the PCS season when you are most vulnerable. All these I have put for you in the chat. Please click on those links to, inform yourself and get to know what to do. So thank you so much, Jeff and JR. We have shared services and resources here, and I believe the next step right now is for you and me to go and do the right thing. For Blue Star family members, as I've said, you can save 50% on your prescription to Aura. Visit bluestarfamilies.org/perks. I have put it twice on the links on the chat, and I'm going to put it again just to emphasize why it's very important for you to go there and get yourself 50% off. That's a huge deal, very huge deal. Please take advantage of it. Now, I'd like our panelists to help with recommendations on what more can we do to support our, everyday families, military families and veteran families with these experiences that we have. From your vast personal and professional experience, JR and Jeff, one more. I'm not sure. This is just a very, sensitive topic. What more can we do to raise awareness and support the military communities with regard to cybersecurity? JR, please go ahead.
So I think as we've talked about how to know that you're at risk and maybe some indicators that it's happening. As we get more preventative, I think it's important to talk to your friends and family and service members about this issue. Make sure that you're asking them what steps are they taking to protect themselves. And if you take away a couple of tips from this conversation, pass them along. I think that's, hearing news from our trusted relationships is, I think, much more impactful. So be sure to share it. I think the other thing that's really important here is the legislation in our regulatory environment with regards to privacy. Mm-hmm. The United States has taken a maybe different approach around privacy regulation than what we see in Europe and other countries. Different states within the U.S. are taking different approaches to how they regulate it. So I would encourage you, if you're talking to your local lawmakers, talking to your representatives in government, make sure that they know this is an important issue, and the U.S. Could do more around privacy regulation and ensuring that PII is treated responsibly. And I think lastly, I would offer a couple of resources that I find valuable. FightCybercrime.org is a helpful site for tips on different types of scams, including identity theft and what can be done about it. And then also the consumer's FTC website, the consumer version, the consumer.ftc.gov has some great resources for dealing with identity theft as well.
Just give me a second. I'm trying to type it so we can have our viewers. Consumer.ftc.gov.
Yeah, .gov.
There you go. Thank you so much, JR. Care to chime in, Jeff? What more
Yeah,
should we?
so yeah, no, I appreciate that, Lydia. And one, I guess additional piece I would offer to our community is, like it or not, there are a lot of folks who, once they understand who you are and what community you're a part of, they will unfortunately, try to scam those of us who might be unaware. And I think that whenever there are new VA benefits, for instance, or new legislation that gets passed around certain types of benefits that you can afford yourself to, particularly as a veteran. One example is the burn pits legislation that passed last year. If you were, you want to be part of that registry, or you might be eligible for some additional benefits through the VA, be skeptical if you get offers unsolicited from various parties, because it's likely going to be a scam, and they're trying to get your information knowing that you are part of this military community, and they're trying to get your personal information by seizing in the moment in the wake of a new legislation or new benefits or new eligibility for our veterans for certain additional benefits. So really make sure that you know who you're communicating with, and don't fall prey to those who might try to again scam you out of your information, because they know that you might be part of a community that's paying attention to some new benefit that's available through the VA or through the government.
Thank you so much, Jeff. What you mentioned there just brings me back to the reality that the military community is a blessing, but on the other side it can also be a curse, because it's accompanied by so many other things that if you're not well prepared for in your mind, can expose you to so much, including fraud and identity theft. So we've come to the end of our broadcast today. We have shared with you some amazing information, including some statistics that should blow your mind and make you run to Blue Star Family's perks to get you covered. I want to thank Jeff and JR today for helping us understand this topic and for being passionate about helping the military community. This is a very important topic that impacts almost all within the community. We would also love to hear from you, viewers. If you have a question, please feel free to drop those in the chat or contact me via email. I'll be happy to answer those or share with an expert who will be happy to help you. I will once again say that we have a 50% off offer for all our Blue Star family members. Please run there and get yourself and your family covered. Remember, we will continue to cover subjects like this, so join us for our next Money Monday session next month. We will be discussing taxes. It's tax season, guys. This is a community that works differently, so we need to know what to do when it comes to taxes. I'll be talking about that important topic, giving you information about filing your taxes as someone in the military, and how to go about it. Thank you again, and from everyone at Blue Star Families, have a great day. Bye bye.